President.
The Senator from Alaska.
Mr. President, this is a very interesting night on the Senate floor as many of us keep coming down and talking about what it means and the money involved in politics and the corruptive system that is now plaguing us with these super PACs and these 501c4s, which I would bet you, if you ask the average person what's a 501c4, they have no idea. If we said turn on your TV, maybe one of those swing states, and see those thousands of ads in the week, well, that's a 501c4, running those ads. But you know, I'm glad I'm down here this evening. I know it's late. From Alaska's perspective, it's not too late here. It's around 11 o'clock in Washington, D.C. time. Alaska, it's about 7. Sun hasn't set. And here we are in the body talking about what's important to not only to my folks in Alaska, but also to the folks of this country. You know, it's only July, and we're already up to our elbows in negative and dirty and distorted attack ads. Imagine what it will be like by November. These kind of negative ads are cheap shot ads, many of them funded by anonymous donors who make outrageous negative claims based on half-truths at best and outright lies at worst, all paid for by cigarette fat cats and unlimited deep pockets, money that no one knows where it comes from. Alaskans tell me, and when I'm back there, and I try to get back there at least twice a month and more, and hear from Alaskans all the time, and they're fed up with it. I know we're fed up with it. I think the American people are fed up with it. So I'm happy to join my colleagues tonight, standing up, fighting back, and demanding transparency. Something so simple. That's all we're asking for tonight. Transparency, openness, and honesty. I mean, I don't know what they're afraid of. You contribute money, you should be proud. You should be excited about who you're supporting. But for some reason, they hide. They don't want people to see who they support. I want to take a few minutes. I know many people have heard tonight who've been watching and listening, and maybe it's been through C-SPAN or through news clips or whatever else might be going on, or through our own websites. Take a few minutes to describe how we got here, why we're in this dilemma. Citizens United case that extended free speech rights to corporations as if they are people. Whoever thought corporate personhood would become part of our vocabulary? In fact, Alaskans are concerned about this. Just last week, the city and borough of Sitka passed a resolution about the opposition to corporate personhood, and I ask unanimous consent to enter this resolution into the record from a small community in Alaska, but concerned about the issue.
Without objection.
I also want to talk about one part of the solution, the reason we are here tonight, a simple solution to a growing problem, and that's the DISCLOSE Act. I notice, as I presided where you were, Mr. President, not long ago, and now I'm down here on the floor, and I noticed no one from the minority is here in this chamber countering or debating what we're talking about tonight. They're at home, away from the TV cameras, because earlier this evening they voted in a block to vote against moving the DISCLOSE Act forward, which is kind of interesting because I don't know how many times I hear from the other side, please just let us have a right to have a debate on a subject matter. Don't filibuster it. Don't require 60 votes. Let us amend these kinds of issues. So all we're saying is let's get to the vote. They get a chance to amend it if they want, or if they don't like pieces of it, whatever. But they won't let us do that. They voted in favor of unlimited negative political ads. They voted against transparency, openness, and honesty. They voted against the American people. They should be ashamed, and they should be at home hiding. So what exactly is Citizens United? The Citizens United ruling by the Supreme Court, again, many of us have talked about it already, 2 years ago, opened up the floodgates to unlimited corporate and special interest money in elections. As a result, corporations and other wealthy interests exert vast influence in our political system through secret, anonymous, untraceable money. Individuals, ordinary Americans, are having their voices drowned out. Super PACs, you hear that phrase off and on, They disclose their donors. But these 501c4s, that's what they call them, 501c4 groups, that's a code underneath the IRS code. The so-called, and they're actually called, this is what's amazing, social welfare organizations. Social welfare organizations, 501c4s. They don't have to disclose anything. They can run their own negative ads, or they can give unlimited money to super PACs without any disclosure. Either way, they don't have to disclose their donors. The era of secret money is here, and it's a lot of money. You've heard the numbers. This year, we estimate almost $1 billion. $1 billion spent in negative ads that no one has to know who's paying for it. If they love these ads, they think they're so great and they're so factual, all we're asking is tell us who you are. Tell us what you're doing. When I was mayor of Anchorage, I had a group like this in one of my re-election campaigns. They ran it. No one knew who they were, but I had a pretty good idea. And I started talking about it. And I'll tell you what happened in Anchorage. People rejected those ads. I won my re-election by one of the largest margins in the city's history. But they started running these secret ads and didn't want to disclose themselves. They didn't like a decision I made. And then they never came forward, but we knew who they were. Again, we think they'll be up to $1 billion. I've already spent $250 million. You know, the last time we had an issue like this in this country around election nearing, in the sense of elections being bought by very special interest groups, it was around 1972. Some people may not remember the history there, but all you have to say is a couple words: scandal, Watergate. That's what happened. It was election money, more money than people could ever imagine. The rules were unlimited in 72. Matter of fact, it got so bad that it was truly a constitutional crisis. The president had to resign. Think about it. That was the last time we did election reform in the sense of campaign financing. And campaign financing reform came in fast and furious after that, because it was the corruption of the money of very few people. It brought down our president at that time and almost brought down this country. Things have changed quite a bit since then. I just want to give you a couple stats because I think it's important to know where we have been and where we are in a sense of this. 40 years ago was the last time we had meaningful, aggressive election in a sense of campaign financing. Back then, you could buy a gallon of gas for 55 cents. Imagine that. HBO was launched as the first pay-for cable network channel or TV station. Today, cable is everywhere, and the amount of money flowing in there to buy these negative ads is enormous. Digital watches were introduced. Everything's digital now. Back then, it was just the beginning, but it was a different era. But we did, after a crisis that occurred with the corruption of money that tried to buy our government, buy every elected official that they could get their hands on, and in that case, the presidency. That was 40 years ago. Here we are. When we think about the money that will be spent this time, $1 billion, almost 70% of the money so far has been used for negative ads. Poll after poll, I don't care if it's a scientific poll or sitting at the coffee shop or when I'm traveling around Alaska, people hate negative ads, but they continue to buy them, and they never want to tell anyone who's paying for them. If they're so proud and they're factual, step to the plate. The election is 4 months away from now, and we're going to see an enormous amount of ads. And when I think about how this affects my state, Alaska, not so long ago, Alaska had some of the most strictest campaign finance laws in the country. Alaskans said, we don't want outside money or a few rich locals buying elections. Let me give you an example. $500 is a maximum amount you can contribute to a candidate in a calendar year. Individuals, non-residents, the max amount to a governor's race, $20,000 total. Corporations, business organizations, unions in Alaska, prohibited. Groups from outside, not based in Alaska, prohibited. Non-group entities based outside of Alaska, prohibited. We have some of the toughest. But now this effort is stepping on what citizens did through an initiative. What citizens did through an initiative. They put at risk our state laws. Now corporations can make independent expenditures on behalf of state candidates in Alaska, which they could not do before. And our own campaign finance agency in Alaska just issued an opinion that will allow for unlimited spending. This will allow outside groups and outside money to influence Alaskans and Alaskan elections. Exactly what we didn't want through our own citizens initiative. And there's one thing we don't like in Alaska: outsiders telling us how to do our business. They did that for decades. Took everything they could out of Alaska. Every dime, every inch of land they could take in the sense of ownership and mineral resources, they took it all for their benefit. For a few, Alaskans said no more. Not only did we change our laws to govern, we also changed our election laws. Citizens did this. What can we do in Congress? It is so simple. Disclose and transparency. Members of both parties have said for decades that sunlight, as we heard tonight, is the best disinfectant. We need more transparency. I'm a huge advocate for transparency. I post my own schedule. I post my financial statements. I disclose my wife's income, which is not required. I called for crop insurance transparency. I co-sponsored the Stock Act. People just want to know what we're up to. And these corruptive systems of a few, a dozen or so, that are trying to buy this election for their own personal gain. We just want to know who they are. They can spend the money they want, but we just want to know who they are. Transparency, disclosure, used to be a bipartisan idea. Senator McConnell, we heard this earlier, said himself many times, and I want to repeat it because sometimes what happens around this place, I've noticed after only 4 years here, memories get very vague of what people say before, and suddenly they change their ideas based on the politics, not the policy. Here's his direct quote from 15 years ago. "I think disclosure is the best disinfectant. I think it gives our constituents an opportunity to decide whether or not we're in the clutches of some particular interest group or whether or not that's a voting issue for them. I'm certainly in favor of enhanced disclosure." That's from the minority leader. Nearly every senator in this body on both sides of this aisle have said they want more transparency. Polls show Americans know exactly who spends money to influence elections, so they want to know it. They want to know it because they want more faith. Maybe this explains why they're angry at us, why Congress has such a low rating. The bill is very simple. I know people have said it over and over again, but sometimes I think we have to repeat it. The bill is very simple. It requires any organization that spends $10,000 or more on influencing politics, they have to file a simple disclosure report with the FEC, the Federal Elections Commission. Not complicated. Every group is treated the same. I have received a few emails. I have to say, the emails on this issue, all for it, only one against so far. Now I know once I say this, tomorrow I'll see a ream of them because 5 or 6 of these special interest groups will be churning out stamped out letters. But the 501, this treats everyone the same. Corporations, nonprofits, labor unions, 501c4s, 527 organizations. They only have to disclose money spent on elections, and only from individuals giving more than $10,000. Under this bill, money given to these groups for other purposes does not need to be disclosed, despite what you read in the paper and the blogs and the misinformation that's put out there, or by the undisclosed groups who tell you the misinformation, who won't tell you who they are, but they want to give you more misinformation. This is a new and improved version of the DISCLOSE Act, which failed on the Senate floor 2 years ago by just one vote. Under that bill, the cutoff for disclosure was $600. Now, in this bill tonight, the threshold is $10,000. That's not too much to ask. If you give $10,000 or more for your political attack, negative ads that distort the truth, the American people deserve to know who you are. And if you're so proud of those ads, you should disclose who you are. The bill won't force groups to release their members list. Despite some people have emailed me, I want to make it very clear. If you belong to the NRA and I belong to the NRA, I'm a lifetime member. Actually, I don't have any problem with the NRA releasing my name. They want to put on their website that I'm a lifetime member, go for it. I'm all for it. I'm proud to be a member. I'm proud to be a member. Put my name up there. But this does not require us, if you're a due-paying member to a group like the NRA, your name won't be listed. So that misinformation that some groups are out there, shame on them. This bill is not an unconstitutional reaction to free speech. The Disclosure Act puts no restrictions on speech and fully consistent with the Supreme Court. The bill also incorporates the court's effective disclosure rules. Let me sum it up. This bill, and I know someone, I think it was Senator from Arkansas today, I saw him and I thought it was great, because we always hear, and these bills are so big, they're pages. This is it. And if you look at it, it's double-spaced, takes only half the page, each one. Not complicated, pretty simple. The bill is narrowly tailored and very, very simple. It doesn't prevent any special interest groups or any corporation from donating any amount they want. All we're asking is, just tell us who you are. And when I say us, not us here, the American people who just want to know. The bill will give Americans faith that their elected representatives aren't being bought and sold by hundreds of millions of dollars of secret, untraceable money. So I hope we vote on the Disclose Act again, and as soon as tomorrow. And I hope my colleagues from the other side come back to this floor. Maybe they'll have something to say. I don't know. It's been a long night. They haven't heard a word from them. But it'd be nice to have a debate on this. But also, let's do what I know Alaskans are asking me every day. Clean up the system. The best way you can do that, just tell people where the money. Show me the money. Follow the money. And when you follow the money, as in 1972 they did, you know exactly who's trying to buy the government. And in this case, we just want to know. And if you're so proud of these ads you run, and I'm sure, we all sat around a little bit talking about this. As soon as we come to the floor and say these things, people will be, I'm sure 2 years from now when I'm up, they'll be thinking I'm going to run those ads against that Begich guy. My view is, hey, if you want to run them, run them. People want to know who you are. But if you want to disclose, then you pay the consequence of what I think Alaskans will feel. And that is these people who hide behind this money, secret money, don't disclose themselves, basically what they're pitching, what they're selling is hogwash. Mr. President, I yield the floor.